starting to think that gaming companies might be a little bit out of touch with the average consumer.
So the original plan for this video was I was going to talk about how it felt to be a Game Pass member, where over the last few months it has kind of really justified that membership, whereas in previous years it had been a little bit hard. It kind of felt like we were like out of that drought that we were in with the good titles, and we were finally getting into a stage where you could be like, you know what, being a Game Pass member, it's actually worth it because of all of these amazing releases that we're getting. But then Microsoft released a new statement, and it kind of changed a lot about being an Xbox gamer. So towards the start of the year, Microsoft released an ad campaign called This is an Xbox, and it kind of felt a bit weird watching it. In one way it was good because you could see that the Xbox cloud streaming service was coming to everything pretty much. But on the other hand, it felt really weird that a company which had focused on hardware manufacturing and was one of the big three players in the console market was essentially telling you that you didn't have to own a console to play their games. And it kind of helped push the mindset that people had of Microsoft eventually going to go the way of Sega, where they would not actually be one of the big players in the console market and instead would offer games or services to the others out there. I'm still on the fence with what's going to happen with them. I would hope that they would stay in the console market because it's always nice to have competition. But with that said, it's not hard to see why people would jump into that conclusion. So there have been titles that have been anticipated for Game Pass for a while. And like I said, it kind of felt like this year was going to be the year where that Game Pass membership was actually being justified. We had things like Avowed get released for it. We've had titles like Ninja Gaiden 4 get announced for it, and Ninja Gaiden 2 get a shadow drop. Titles such as South of Midnight, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which is my game of the year, were also on Game Pass. Yes, these titles have been available elsewhere. To be bundled in with that Game Pass membership is an incredible get, not only for the developer themselves, but also for the user. I haven't got to go and spend £50 on a game which I'm not 100% sure on. I can download it, try it out, and if I love it, play it, maybe then buy it on a console later on if they do a sequel for it, or a collector's edition if it comes out, if it means that much to me. We've also had one of last year's Game of the Year contenders, Balatro, finally get brought over to the service. Of course, who can forget the fact that Oblivion Remastered was included in that membership. Again, a great shadow. I kind of can't call that a shadow drop because it was kind of expected and there was so many leaks about it, but you know what I mean. But then also looking at the future, we've got titles such as Doom the Dark Ages coming out onto Game Pass day one. You've got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 coming out to Game Pass on day one. And even titles like Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers are coming over as well. It's a great time to be a Game Pass member because there's so much now on that system and on that service which wasn't there before. And part of that is due to the acquisitions which Microsoft have made over the last few years, and they're finally starting to become fruitful. The fact that I don't have to spend out to get the Call of Duty multiplayer now. I just load up Xbox Game Pass and there it is. It's part of that. I don't have to worry about grinding weapon skins on Warzone on my PS5. I can play the game on my Xbox and then go over and be a sweat on my PS5. But then, well, then the news came, and it was weird news. For those of you that have been around as long as I have, which is a long time.
I'm old, Gandalf.
You'll know that games consoles don't normally go up in value during the life cycle. Yes, they can become more expensive afterwards. That's where the retro market comes in, and heaven forbid you try and pick up some of the retro consoles these days because they are beyond stupid in pricing. I don't think it's ever happened. In fact, I can pretty much put money on the fact it's never happened where a console has gone up in price whilst it is still on the shelves. And I don't mean like a sale has ended and it's finally gone back to its normal retail price. No, I mean the fact that there are consoles now which are going to be pushing over $700 for the console itself. That's insane. Now, yes, the PS5 Pro was also a very expensive console. However, the PS5 Pro was an advancement upon something that wasn't already there. It wasn't just a console which you could currently buy, and then the week later, actually need to add $120 onto that. Microsoft raising the price of the Xbox Series S and the Series X and the other special editions that have come along the way with it. It's insane. Now, the reason I say it's insane is because if you take a look at this chart from VG Charts, which tracks the sales of Xbox and PS5 consoles over the last 12 months in America, at the end of the year, PlayStation was over 3 million units ahead. And another key point that needs to be brought up is the fact that if you were to put the two launches side by side, the PS5 and the PS4, at this point in that sales timeline, the PS5 is over 1 million units ahead, whereas the Xbox Series consoles are close to 4 million units behind. So I don't really know why Microsoft is out here upping the price of those consoles. The math ain't mathin' with that one. But what have they actually changed? I've mentioned they've upped the console prices. They've also said that they're going to up the game prices as well to $80, and that's caused quite a lot of reactions online. And a lot of people have been out there saying, thanks Nintendo for this, because apparently it's Nintendo's fault that Microsoft is charging this. And I'm going to disagree with that. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not happy that game prices are getting up there to silly money again. However, I don't think you can blame Nintendo for this, because if you take the games out of this equation, they've still put $120 on one of the consoles, and it's affected everyone worldwide as well. Now granted, here in the UK, the prices haven't gone up as much. I think it's about £20 for the Series X and about £50 for the Series S console that things have changed with. But the principle is, everything is going up, and it's really weird that that is happening. But I think blaming Nintendo is the wrong move for it. Yes, Nintendo were the first ones to pull the trigger and go, hey look, games are going to be a bit more expensive now. We're looking at £75 for Mario Kart World, $80 for it in America. Like, it's not cheap, okay? That doesn't justify some of the things that Microsoft have done with these changes. If you head over to the IGN article that I've got linked in the description, you can see the changes which Xbox have made with the console prices in America. You've got things like the Series S coming in at $379 now, which is up from $299. That's $80 onto the base spec console. And another $80 has been added onto the 1TB model, making that $429 for a Series S. You've then got the Xbox Series X all digital model, which is up to $549 now, which is $100 on top of what it used to be. The Series X normal console is $599, which is again $100 up from what it used to be. And then if you want to get the 2TB Galaxy Special Edition version of the Series X console, that is the one which we were talking about earlier, which is $729, which is $129 up on what it used to be. I'm going to let you simmer on that for a moment, because those prices are wild. And yes, it's affected worldwide. Pure Xbox has got this chart up, which shows you the differences in the sort of regions now around the world of what things are going to be costing. Again, I think we've gotten off a little bit lighter here in the UK with some of the price increases. However, it doesn't change the fact that we're still involved in this. And it's still ridiculous to think that we are, what, 4 years, coming up to 5 years into a console's life cycle now, and things are way more expensive. The base console for an Xbox Series console is now almost what it would have cost to get the top-end console at launch. But one thing you'll notice that was missing from those price increases was the price of Game Pass. Now, I am a gambling man, and I don't think it's long until we see the price of Game Pass go up as well. What it'll go up to, I don't know. Maybe Microsoft is putting all their eggs into this basket to try and hope that this is where they make up that money, because they kind of can't be expecting to sell more consoles given the fact that they're way more expensive now. It's strange to think that gaming is now way more expensive than it's ever been. We have never been more considerate about what we actually purchase from games companies than we are lately. Back when I was a kid, you didn't have the ability to go online and look at reviews for games. You went to the supermarket, or you went to Toys R Us or EB Games or wherever it was you were going, and you looked at the cover of a game, at the back, and you went, yeah, I'll have that. And that's how I ended up with Rise of the Robots. We all make mistakes like that. It's a really weird timeline that we're living in right now, and it's one that I don't fully grasp. But I'm starting to think if that boy had never fallen into the gorilla enclosure at that Cincinnati zoo, that everything would be a lot better right now.